So this is my problem. I got a lot of problems, and this is one of my problems. I'm working on a new comedy short here. Oh, this is Pickle Rick, by the way. You can't see Pickle Rick because he's green. And you may not know this, everyone, but I'm working on a green screen here. So I'm working on a comedy short about Andrew Cuomo, and completely got distracted because I'm playing around with the software, and I'm supposed to be doing this, and I'm supposed to be talking to you all. And let's just go to a short. Let's just do something funny, right? This is actually a short. I'm not even going to tell you anything else. We're going to do something, and it's going to be now. Be back in a second. Have you gotten a nasal swab test for COVID-19? It's very intrusive and it's very uncomfortable, but it could be worse. COVID. Japan asks China to stop anal tests on its citizens. Japan has asked China to stop taking anal swab tests for COVID-19 on its citizens when they enter the country. What does a butt swab test entail? I'm glad you asked. The tests involve inserting a cotton swab 3 to 5 centimeters, that's 1.2 to 2 inches to you and me, into the anus and gently rotating it. I don't think there's a gentle way of doing that. I don't think there is. All right, so that was a true story with a comical twist to it. At least, I don't know, sometimes you just have to tell the joke or tell the story, and the comedy is, and the horror and the comedy is right in there. How's everyone doing this morning? I got a lot of things going on. I had a lot of things going on today. Poor disappointed cat. Does he even know that it's hump day? No, simply secular cats. They just live in the now. Cats just live in the now. Though they might be disappointed. They might be disappointed in the now. That could be happening. Tobin Templeman, how you doing this morning? John Hudson. I hope you're all doing well today. And if you're lucky, maybe I can just slurp my coffee a little bit louder into everyone's ears, right? Jess M, good morning. I was going to call you Jess Morning. Jess, good morning. Maybe I should just say that. Jess, good morning. Good morning, Jess, good morning. And imaginary God, we got a crazy show today. I don't have my set list going. I'm just kind of like playing it by ear because I was working on this comedy short. I don't have a question for the day. I know that we're gonna be doing a few different news stories today about voter suppression, about Scott Lively. Yes, Scott Lively. He is the religious fanatic who lives in my state, in Springfield, Massachusetts. He lives in the other, once you get past a certain part of the state of Massachusetts, it really does become a little less civilized. I'm not going to lie to you. So we're going to be doing all kinds of fun. I don't even have a question of the day. That's in because I was just fixated on this comedy short. I came up with the idea last night, and it's like, oh, my fictitious God, I gotta run with this. But that's me. I hope everyone's doing well. So what are we doing for stories today? We're going to be talking about voter suppression. We're going to be talking about Scott Lively. We're going to talk about Americans not living as long, and of course, COVID. Those are the great topics we're going to be talking about. All right, so let's just do a couple of funny things. Let's do a couple of memes, right? A couple of memes to get the day rolling. And this is from Existential Comics. If you're not following them, wherever they are, either on the gram, on Twitter, they're definitely worth checking out. Capitalism, good news. With technology, we can produce more with half the work. And workers are like, cool, we only have to work half the hours. It's like, workers, we get paid double. Workers, we retire sooner. And capital's like, oh, by the way, we roll back your pensions. Pensions? Do people even have pensions anymore? If you're not working for a town or municipality, do people even have pensions? Or is it just where I'll get to scramble together and put money into the stock market with our 401ks? I feel like this is, once again, Granddad's Corner. Everyone, there was a time you didn't live in mortal fear of not having enough money in your retirement fund because the company put money into your pension. All right. That was my granddad. That was one of my Granddad Corner fireside chats. This from the tweet of God. Every word in the Bible is literally true. And then they start grouping themselves into sentences. And then you've got the problem. Isn't that the truth? You can have true words, right? Even made up words can be true because they're all made up words. All the words in the Bible are true. It's only when you start stringing them into sentences that you start running into problems. All right, so this is actually a story I found on the Washington Post, and yeah, it's just a bunch of silly words, and it just, even Germans, I think, right? Let me show you this. Germans have added more than 1,200 words in the pandemic. I took German as an undergraduate. That was my language requirement, and there's, if you're German, do you get language fatigue? Do you get language fatigue if you're German? Because there's a lot of words. There's a lot of long words too. There's a lot of long words in German. Let's take a look at them. I don't even know. Minimum distance regulation. The mind stab. See, it sounds like you're stabbing something. It sounds like you're mind stabbing. Mind stab stand reglong. See, it sounds like you're stabbing. See, even the most public health words, right? It still sounds like you're stabbing someone. Condom, the face condom. I think that the face condom. I remember going for my first HIV test. Yes, this is an HIV kind of reference here, talking about, I got my first HIV test back in 1988 or whatever, and I remember going and talking to the counselor about how you could use dental dams for oral. What? Wow, that's weird, Andy. But when you're talking about face condoms, I mean, what else are you going to think about? And the spit protection umbrella, the Spuckschützschirm. See, the YouTube algorithm is going to think I'm cursing. But I'm not. I'm just saying German words. I'm trying to say German words. Brain bug. How you doing? Willie. Well, they are Germans. Oh, simply secular. That was painful, Dr. Mordecai. Yeah, no pension for me either, Tobin. No pension for Andy. Just working and grinding, working in the acid mines of comedy. So wait, we're going to actually continue with the crazy German word. I mean, they're crazy German words to me just because I'm not German, and they have like 20 syllables for one word. Once again, this is a Washington Post story. If you go out in Germany during the pandemic, don't forget your Alltagsmask, everyday mask. I guess there's an everyday mask, and then there's the Spuckschützschirm, your spit protection umbrella. If it's a bit frigid outside, you might want to do your Schnautenpulli, literally a snout sweater. A snout sweater. A snout, I'm sorry. It's not a schnaut sweater, Andy. It's a snout sweater. Heading out on a date, you might as well be taking your latest Mundschnacks mode, the mouth protection fashion, before selecting your face condom. Face condom. Oh, some people would say, Andy Hall, you already have a face condom on. Why would anyone want to have sex with you if you have this? See, that's a joke. Social distancing is mind stabbing. I'm just going to call it mind stabbing because it's funnier that way. Or to get more precise, the Andalf. People can't use those words in everyday life. How can you use those words? And this is why, and I've heard comedians say it's difficult to work in Germany, or Germans don't have an incredible sense of humor. How can you have a good sense of humor when every word has 15 syllables to it, right? Because comedy is about fast, funny, unexpected, but then you're just trying to say these words like Gescheit condom and the Spuckschützschirm. I had my Gescheit condom with my Spuckschützschirm. It just devolves into insanity. But a lot of things do. I am being silly. How can you not be silly? You look at the 1,200 words too. It's 1,200 words the Germans have added in the pandemic. Is this some kind of anxious response to coronavirus? Is this some kind of anxiety, like some kind of instinctual response to the potential of death? Is that you just have to make more words up? You have to control the things you can control? I think it is. I think it could be at the very least. All right. So that was me sharing with you some incredible mispronunciations of German words right there. And there's no link to this, by the way. I just found this story just before starting off the show. And I thought, well, I'm just going to throw this in here because it's hilarious. But it is a Washington Post story. 1,200 words in the pandemic. All right. Morning. Listening. Well, good morning, Rage. I hope you're doing well. I saw your video on Woody Allen yesterday. Disturbing stuff. Disturbing stuff. Oh, see, now here we go. Simply secular. I like this. Unterschutzkatz. Disappointed cat in German. Way funnier. Way funnier. All right. What are we doing for stories? What are we doing for stories? And of course, Rage. If not Rage, then John Peterson's going to be doing a show on Rage's channel at 10:30 to 11:30. Yesterday, he premiered a video. Rage premiered a video, pre-recorded video, of course, and about Woody Allen. Worth checking out. All right, so what's going on next? What's the next story we're talking about? Oh, Scott Lively. Scott Lively. Scott Lively. Does everyone here know who Scott Lively is? I mean, we're a relatively smart group of people, and unfortunately, we're acquainted with a lot of Christian lunatics. And Scott Lively is from my state. He is from the great state of Massachusetts. He's one of the. He wrote a book about how all the National Socialists in Germany were gay, or predominantly gay. It's like the pink swastika, I think, was one of his books. Someone in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong. I know it's something like that. So this lunatic, he lives out in Springfield, which is a really, it's not an affluent city. So it's no surprise that religious fanatics would find a home there. But here's the latest bit of crazy stuff from Scott Lively. This is from Hemant Mehta, the Friendly Atheist. I asked God to destroy a strip club, so he caused a gas explosion. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. Wow. Here it goes. Anti-LGBTQ activist Scott Lively, man who inspired Uganda's famous Kill the Gays bill, told a story yesterday about how he used to drive by a strip club and prayed God to destroy it. And it happened. It happened. Lively was living, he lives in Springfield. We had this is Lively speaking, we had our inner city mission there. I would pray against one particular strip club every time I went back because I went by it all the time. It was called Scores Nightclub. And I prayed several times for the Lord to bring it down. And then one day I was driving past it. I prayed it again, and I asked, Lord, how come you never answered those prayers? And then I went home. Within 24 hours, that building was completely demolished with a gas explosion, without one brick being left on another. I don't think anyone knows that for sure, Scott Lively. Nobody died. There were people injured there were minor injuries. Minor. Mm-hmm. I went down, and after a couple of weeks, after they opened up the area, this is one of the bricks. I guess he's showing the bricks on this crazy video. This is one of the bricks from Scores Nightclub, the strip club, and I grabbed it as a memento of God answering an imprecatory prayer. Yes, there are imprecatory prayers, and those are prayers which you ask God to destroy nightclubs with. Strip clubs. And you got to ask yourself, did Scott Lively... that's German stuff there. You got to ask yourself whether or not Scores Nightclub stiffed Scott Lively when he was there at the club, tasting some forbidden fruit, and that's why he didn't like Scores Nightclub. That could be it. And you know what they say about people who are homophobic, religious fanatics who are homophobic, that the more homophobic you are, and there's data, there's this research, there are studies about this, that the more homophobic you are, the more you want it. If you're a guy, the more you want the male phallus, not your own phallus. So I wouldn't be Scott Lively. Might have had an encounter or two around the nightclub. Scott has a lot of pull with the Lord. There's a disgusting hand gesture there. Hey, how you doing? Glad to see you here. I miss all the live shows because of work. Work gets in the way of living. Hey, that's what I've discovered. Work gets in the way of living. All right. Go. Imaginary God goes, is that a novel testable prediction? Next time ask God for locusts. That's right. The idea that the one time out of, let's say, 100 or so, or 1,000 or 200, whatever, the one time that this coincidence occurs, that your magic thoughts, your thoughts in your brain somehow coincides with something in the external world. This is how bad our brains are, everyone. This is how bad our brains are, is that the one time out of 1,000 that somehow the random thought in our head or a thought in our head coincides with something in the environment, and we think to ourselves, well, this is the important thing right here. This is the salient thing. This is the thing that tells me something about reality. Massachusetts too young. Uganda God is God's. Yeah. Scott Lively, what a lunatic. Does a lot. He very could. He very could, John Hudson. He very could. So there you go, everyone. So what have we covered so far? The Germans have created 1,200 words during the pandemic about the pandemic. And of course, Scott Lively, the religious fanatic in Springfield, Massachusetts, prayed for a strip club, a particular strip club, to fall, like the walls of Jericho. But God said, I don't want the walls to fall. I want them to explode. So that's why the gas main blew up. Now, if you know anything about Massachusetts, we actually had a series of explosions. I've been talking crap about Texas. And yeah, I'm going to be talking about crap about Texas in another couple of minutes too. But maybe about 2 years ago, we had a series of explosions up on the North Shore, where some large buildings just exploded because of our gas, because of our gas lines. And I don't think God had anything to do with those, or at least Scott Lively's prayers. It's almost as if having gas in your house is somewhat dangerous, and that there's always a small chance of explosion. All right. Next story. Let's do the next story. COVID. Joe Biden promises vaccines for all adults by the end of May. You all know that I am very happy with this news, because I plan to go for my pub crawl on my birthday, or around my birthday, June 27th. So at the very least, not only will I be vaccinated, hopefully, fingers crossed, but hopefully everyone else will be. Links are down in the description if you want to check out these stories. This is from BBC, I believe. Joe Biden is saying that we have enough coronavirus vaccines for every adult by the end of May. This will be 2 months earlier than previously expected. But Mr. Biden said the vaccination drive must be extended to, and people convinced to take it. All right, I'm going to rant about that in a minute too. I'm going to rant about it now. At some point, we've already gone over in past shows about how it's important to incentivize people to do the right thing. Now, if I was angrier and a little bit more awake, I'd say we have to incentivize stupid people for doing smart things. But I'm not like that, because I have grown as a person. And I'm just going to say we have to incentivize everyone to do the right thing. So like we talked about before, there's a Michigan cannabis dispensary that's giving people free marijuana cigarette for showing the proof that they got vaccinated. There is a bar in Tel Aviv in Israel that's giving people a free drink if they get their COVID-19 shot while in the bar, which is pretty cool, to tell you the truth. And of course, it's a non-alcoholic drink, but still, there's some kind of incentive for doing good behavior, because apparently we're such a stupid species, most of us. I'm going to do broad brushstrokes here. We're such a stupid species that we need some kind of perk. We need some kind of reinforcer to do the right thing, to keep ourselves alive. All right, enough rant. And he warned people to stay vigilant because the fight is far from over, with new variants a major concern. His caution is at odds with some states. Oh, here we go. We're going to talk about Texas in a minute, which are relaxing restrictions in order to boost their economies. Although there's a sharp fall in confirmed cases since the start of the year, the figure is 68,000 today now, is well down below the January 8th peak of 300,000. That drop has leveled off over the past week, fueling fears of another wave. More than 76 million vaccination doses have been administered, covering 15.3%. So that's a statistic that kind of sort of lies. From what I've seen from the statistics last night, 8% of the total population of the United States have been vaccinated. That's with both doses or completely vaccinated. Covering 15.3% of the population in the U.S. remains on track to meet Mr. Biden's pledge of delivering 100 million COVID-19 vaccine doses in the first 100 days of office. So that's good news, right? We should talk about the good news before we start talking about the stupid news, because this is like a two-part story. This is the good news. They're going to have vaccines for people. We're going to go to the stupid news for, the stupid part of the story in a minute or two. Well, first I'm going to check out the chat. Wild Eden, how you doing? Incentivize. Does incentivize include both reward and punishment for actions? Which works better alone? And do they work better in tandem? Well, I'm glad that you asked me this, Simply Secular, because of the nature of a free society. We're not North Korea, so we can't exactly force people to get vaccines. But like a bayonet point, like the North Koreans will or do or are. But you can definitely, I think, in general, putting on my psychologist hat, that positive reinforcers over time are more likely to shape behavior than punishment, right? So that's why that's why you shouldn't hit your kids, besides the fact that it's effing wrong, but you shouldn't hit your kids, because in all reality, in terms of molding behavior over time, punishment typically doesn't work. And that's why you want to create these incentives from an early age for people not to be stupid. We don't live in that society, everyone. We don't live in a society that there are consistent reinforcers, consistent incentives from a very young age not to act stupid. Do we believe Trump got the vaccine? Well, yeah, kind of. I think I'm going with that. I think I'm going with Trump having the vaccine. Cold Woke TV, how you doing? So yeah, I would suggest that, and there might be some punishments for some people, or there should be some punishments for some people to get if they choose not to get the vaccine. Like if you're a first responder, for example, it only makes sense. Simply Secular, of the 8% of the people fully vaccinated, what percentage are Republicans? Well, that's a good question. We don't want to incentivize Democrats to get vaccinated and things which encourage the spread of non-vaccinated. Pastor Mike, how you doing? I'm listening while reading work emails. That sounds like an outer ring of hell. I think that's what Dante had as an outer ring of hell right there. Work emails. All right. Let's just go on to the good part of the story. Lots of vaccines. Bad part of the story. Well, Texas. The governor of Texas on Tuesday announced an executive order effective from the 10th of March that rescinds most of the coronavirus measures he imposed. Greg Abbott lifted the regulation ordering people to wear masks and said that businesses would be allowed to resume full capacity next week. Why would you need to lift the regulation ordering masks? If your main, I don't understand why you would lift the regulation of wearing masks. I mean, in theory, you could open up businesses, right? And still have people wearing masks. It's now time to open Texas 100%, the Republican said. Too many small business owners have struggled to pay their bills. This must end. He said the increased vaccinations and improved treatment for COVID-19, the state was in a far better position now. The Democratic Party in the state said the crazy move would throw away all the gains. Well, that's a possibility. Mississippi has followed Texas, removing the order on mask wearing, but it will come into effect even earlier from Wednesday. It seems like the poor states, the ones with the poor education systems, poor healthcare systems, are the ones that are really gung-ho to opening up businesses. Now, I crap on Texas just because there's so much to crap on these days. In Mississippi, come on. But I will say Massachusetts is rescinding its limit on indoor dining. I read that in the same article, links in the description. So there's many states that are lifting restrictions, maybe a little bit early. And the main reason why the rates are going down is because we had that huge hump right after the holidays, right? So January 8th was a couple of weeks after Christmas, and right after New Year's Eve. So it made sense there'd be a large bump. Getting rid of these restrictions without everyone being vaccinated, or a lot of people being vaccinated, that's bad. Here we go. Simply Secular. Laughing in disbelief. In Canada, people who have home care can now request only vaccinated services staff. That's good. People who don't want, that's the right way to do it, especially with people who do, having done this kind of work before. People who need to have home care done are medically fragile. They're older typically, or they have some kind of physical or intellectual disability. And the idea of, I said idea with an R, right? The concept of having home healthcare workers coming into these medically fragile people's homes and they're not vaccinated, that's criminal right there. Yeah, they're doing it way too soon, Dr. Osiris. Too true. John Hudson, that's right. Yeah. The whole state is just a mash. A mash of nuts. That's what it is. John Hudson. Very good. Hey, you're going against my religious freedom, imaginary God. You're going against my religious freedom to say ours in ideas. All right. Anything else to this wonderful, wacky story about Texas? Oh, the second part of the story about vaccines in the U.S. No, there isn't. All right. What's the next story? Oh, yeah. Well, that's happy. All right. Americans dying in the prime of their lives, but we're at the halfway point of the show. So let's just do halfway point stuff, which is to show a funny video where everyone can laugh, recenter ourselves, and get ready for the last half of this show.
Thank you for interviewing with us.
We'd like to start by hearing your opinion on the minimum wage.
Absolutely. So, I think we should raise the minimum wage to $15.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah. Actually, wait, hold on. We're not going to raise the minimum wage. Sorry, what?
Why?
One of our guys doesn't want to do it, so we can't do it. So one person backed out, so you're not doing it.
Just like that?
Yeah, just like that. And also, we're going to bomb some places in the Middle East.
We don't want you to bomb anyone.
We got to bomb some places. Okay, next. All right, check this out, guys. $10 an hour minimum wage.
$10 an hour. Isn't the minimum wage in your state $11?
Also, I've spoken to the military, and we're going to put an end to civilian casualty numbers.
Oh my God, that's amazing. You're going to stop all civilian casualties?
Yeah. So we're just not going to report them at all.
And for those of you who don't live in the States, that's the situation. That's where we're at. I want $25 an hour. Well, what's a living wage, Dr. Mordecai? It is an interesting question because even at $15 an hour, you can't afford rent with one job here. Hey, Samuel Gray. Thank you. New welcome for Texas spotted abandoned all ye who hope. You gotta like your Dante references right there. You gotta love the Dante references. Thank you. I do spend a fair amount of time every day working on the show, and subjecting myself to the news cycle daily. Well, at least Monday through Friday, right? But thanks, I appreciate it. If anyone wants to become a patron, this is the link down there, or you can buy me a cup of coffee or the super chat, which Samuel Gray 19. Yeah, thank you, much appreciated. See, now here we go, blazing. The Denmark, the effective minimum wage is $22 an hour. There you go. And wait for the mic drop moment. You don't have to spend any of that on healthcare. Now, I'm going to ask you the follow-up question, Blazing. Do you have to spend any of that on making sure you're not poor in retirement? Do you have to spend any of that on retirement? Because that's actually a legitimate question. You can answer that whenever you want to. I'm not in the States yet, though I do have family in Louisiana. No, really. There should be some kind of, when the Soviet Union fell back in the early 90s, there was a program, not just by Israel, but by evangelicals, to tell you the truth, to get Jews out of the Soviet Union, right? The old Soviet Union. And there should be some kind of program like that to get, there should be two programs. One, there should be a program to get loved ones out of Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, other states like that. And two, there should be a stipend. There should be some kind of subsidy we give people who are liberal, who live in those states. It's kind of like hazard pay, right? Well, glad that you're going to be looking at it later on, AA. Appreciate it. Breakfast, right? I want some breakfast. Of course, that would be second breakfast for me. I'm a big believer in the Hobbit tradition of second breakfast. Maybe even third breakfast. I mean, I don't know. States adjacent to Texas. Build the wall, build the wall, build the wall. Mexico, you guys have to go all the way around. Yeah. Okay, well, here's interesting. This is a follow-up question about Denmark. Let's see. Well, sort of. Your job has your salary, say, $22 an hour, but your boss is obligated to pay 5% on top of it as a pension, but you can choose to add more than that. That's interesting. But we also have a public pension for anyone at the age of 70 or above. Yes, that's what I thought. Is that Denmark, no, you don't have to really pay a lot for it. You don't pay anything for healthcare, for your insurance. And of course, there's a public safety net for people who are over a certain age. I can eat breakfast all day. Yeah, Goldwog. I hear you. I can eat breakfast all day too. And it's not typically the most healthiest meal of the day either. I find that I have to like find vegetables and fruit. All right. So we're going to another story, aren't we? What's the next story coming up? We got the COVID vaccine story done. All right. More Americans are dying in the prime of their lives, new report says. Well, we talked about Denmark for a minute, and now we're going to talk about its alter ego, its evil Spock counterpart, which is the United States of America. If Denmark is the land of a good social safety net, well, this is what happens when you don't do that. More Americans are dying in the prime of our lives. And hey, I happen to be an American currently. Younger and middle-aged Americans have been dying at higher rates over the past 3 decades, marking what is becoming a public health crisis across the U.S. workforce. Among the causes of death, increasingly striking working-age Americans between 1990 and 2017 are drug overdoses, alcohol use, and suicides, according to a new report published Tuesday by the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine. Cardiometabolic conditions, which includes diabetes and heart conditions, are another driver towards the trend that Americans are more likely to die before the age of 65 than those who live in other rich countries. I have to tell you, when I was younger, I would never hear, or I hardly ever heard of young people having heart attacks. But if you've been watching this channel for a while, I've had a couple of my buddies come on who've had either a heart attack or more than one heart attack. And it's guys in their 30s, scary stuff. young adults between the ages of 25 and 44 have grown up amid an obesity epidemic, often with unhealthy diets and a lack of safe open space for exercise, the authors of the report point out. We are losing more and more Americans in the prime of their lives, in their most productive years, and in their parenting years, said Kathleen Mulan-Harris, a professor of sociology at the University of North Carolina. She chairs the Committee on Rising Midlife Mortality Rates and Social Economic Disparities, which authored the report. Beginning in 2020, progress in life expectancy stalled in the U.S. Then between 2014 and 2017, life expectancy fell for 3 years. 3 years? Three years in a row. Harris said in a news conference on Tuesday, the 3-year slide was the largest sustained decline in life expectancy since the 1918 flu pandemic. The committee did not examine data from the last year, but its final report comes from after the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported that the overall life expectancy had dropped a full year in the first half of the 2020 during the pandemic. So yeah, it's been falling for a while. There's been a downward trend on life expectancy here in the States. We have to look upstream to what you might call the causes of the causes. I like that, causes of the causes. What are the living conditions? What is it about the life in America that is increasing the vulnerability of our communities, families, and individuals? The report recommends using the Affordable Care Act to expand Medicaid coverage in states that haven't done so yet. Yes, there are states that haven't expanded coverage, and that's because we have this crappy federal system, and that's the reason why. But of course, if you expanded Medicare, there'd be a lot of Republicans who would say, and have said, that is socialism, and we don't want socialism. Andy in 2021. I happen to be an American. Andy in 2020. I'm happy to be Mexican. I'm proud of it. Well, I got a timeline. Had my first. See, now Rage knows what's going on. You had your first minor heart attack this year, 43, which sucks, but that is becoming more and more prevalent. People, like I've said, I had a couple of buddies come on just talking about their first heart attacks, and sometimes their second and third heart attacks. Jess M. I don't remember who said this, but someone asked, why do Americans work so much? Answer, their work isn't worth much. Yeah, that's true. I remember when I first got divorced, and I was in the money, and I was in a serious money crunch. I was working multiple jobs. And the thing is, if those of you who have never been poor, let me tell you about what it's like to be poor, is that you would finish one shift and there would be like maybe an hour or so between one job and the second job. So you have this time to kill. And I remember pulling off at the side of the road and just napping in my car for like an hour or half an hour or, for a short period of time, because I couldn't get into work that early, my next job, the next shift that early. And so and that kind of lifestyle grinds people down. You're more likely to eat badly. You're more likely to get crappy sleep. It grinds down the body over time. You're right about that, Casey. Randy. Opiates contributed to life expectancy downward trend, especially in the rural areas. Yeah. Yeah, Rage. Well, from what I understand, Rage has been able to cut down on the smoking pretty significantly, if not completely. And so congratulations on that, Rage. It is a tough road. In 16 or 17, there was like in 2016 and 17, there were like 70,000 overdoses in the U.S. Yeah, when I was working with people who have brain injuries, I was working with people who have brain injuries for about 20 years, and one of the reasons why, one of the largest reasons why people have heart attacks or strokes in their 20s and 30s, it's because of drug overdoses. One day at a time, brother. One day at a time. And that's the thing about behavior change. You just got to take it one day at a time, sometimes an hour at a time or a minute at a time, and it's tough. Samuel Gray. We should be giving you money, Samuel Gray. Black atheist Democrat with extreme left socialist leanings and a recycling addict. Good for you. Good for you. All right. So let's see what else is going on here. If we have anything else for the show, that's a lot. We covered a lot. Oh, but there's more. There's more. There's a video I want to share with you all. It's about voter suppression. We talked about it the other day. This is an it's like an 8-minute video I thought I'd share with you all. And I'm just going to let the video speak for itself. I'm going to share it. And it's disturbing.
Past year, we have reported extensively on all the changes to voting in America because of the pandemic and because of our politics. Tonight, we're bringing back our series Ballot Watch because there is an unprecedented new wave of state election laws on the horizon aimed at making it harder to vote. And today, the Supreme Court, the justices heard a major case that could make it harder to challenge restrictions in the years ahead. Here's our Devin Weyer.
Today at the Supreme Court, a major showdown over voting rights as Arizona Republicans defend 2 state laws that limit how ballots are cast.
These measures are designed to provide order and secure the elections and provide confidence in the results.
One measure requires election officials to throw out votes cast in the wrong precinct. Another bans the practice of third-party ballot collection or allowing someone else to turn in your absentee ballot for you.
To us, it's a fundamental issue of right versus wrong. It's all about the integrity.
There's no evidence of widespread voter fraud in Arizona, where 80% of voters in 2020 cast ballots early. Democrats say the real purpose is to make it harder for minorities to vote.
If people have less access to mail, then in fact, getting that ballot back is a big deal. But for somebody who lives in a rural community where you may live 50 or 75 miles from a post office box that you share with a bunch of other families because they're hard to come by, then that's a whole different story.
Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 says laws which result in a denial or abridgment of the right of any U.S. citizen to vote on account of race or color are illegal. The provision has never been tested at the high court, but 8 years ago, a hostile conservative majority effectively gutted a separate part of the law, one that required states with a history of racial discrimination to pre-clear election rule changes with the Justice Department.
The court needs to send a strong statement that the Voting Rights Act will be there for the American public, especially at a time when we see politicians in the state trying to put barriers in front of ballot box.
Republican lawmakers in at least 43 states are considering more than 250 proposed bills that would make it harder to vote.
What do? They do things like restrict access to vote by mail. They impose stricter photo identification laws. They slash voter registration opportunities, and they aggressively purge voters from the rolls.
Many of the measures target early voting, which exploded in popularity during 2020 and led to historic turnout. 30 states made it easier to vote by mail because of the pandemic, but now at least 24 states are considering measures to scale it back in future elections.
Who are the losers? Well, of course, all voters lose when you restrict voting access. But if you said within that subset, you would see that it is almost inevitably aimed at either minority voters or young voters.
Democratic election lawyer Mark Elias says the tidal wave of new laws reflects former President Trump's lie that the election he lost was rigged.
They are restricting voting rights not just in purple states, but they are doing it in red states as well. And it is that reason that I am so confident that this is a product of showing fealty to a failed one-term president as it is anything else.
We must pass comprehensive election reforms, and we must do it now.
As Trump prods his allies, Republican-controlled state legislatures have been moving quickly. In Iowa, Republicans have sent the governor a bill to slash the early voting period by 9 days and impose tighter deadlines on mail-in ballots.
The fact of the matter is there are Americans across this state that have some concerns about what happened in this last election.
In Georgia, which helped decide the presidential race and gave Democrats control of the U.S. Senate, protests as Republicans advance a sweeping crackdown.
Now, Republicans in the Georgia General Assembly are trying to change the rules of the election here in Georgia. Rules that you wrote because you were handed defeat in November the 3rd and again on January the 5th.
House Bill 531 is designed to begin to bring back the confidence of our voters back into our election system.
They want to restrict placement of ballot drop boxes, cut hours for early voting on weekends, and require photo ID to vote by mail.
For people who have a driver's license, who have the privilege to have a driver's license, maybe that's no big deal to have to do that. But for somebody who doesn't have a driver's license, then they have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops.
Are any of these measures that are being proposed, any of them legitimate?
Most of these measures really don't make the election more secure. I mean, even if you set aside the fact that there is vanishingly little, if any, fraud in the American election, there's nothing that makes the election more secure by saying that the election day has to be shorter.
More than half of all voters believe the 2020 election was secure. It's a view shared by the Trump Justice Department and dozens of federal judges. Still, nearly 3 in 4 Republicans disagree.
I mean, how do you restore confidence when you have half the electorate, 73% of Republicans say they thought there was widespread voter fraud?
That, I think, is the big question. I think the real challenge for our democracy moving forward, beyond laws and lawsuits, is how do we get to a place in which both political parties agree that we hold and should hold fair and free elections.
In Arizona, Attorney General Mark Brnovich says the answer is in the rule of law.
Look, I'm a first-generation American, and I understand how important the, symbolically, emotionally, and practically that right to vote is. You want to make sure that everyone has confidence in the results, and no one can go around saying that somehow there was some shenanigans or something, or somebody was disenfranchised.
And Devin Dwyer joins me now. Devin, you covered today's Supreme Court arguments over Arizona's election laws, and I know you're so good at reading the legal tea leaves. What did we learn about just how the justices might rule?
Well, Juju, it seems likely that the court's conservatives will actually uphold those 2 Arizona laws, the one on out-of-precinct voting and the ban on ballot collection. Justice Brett Kavanaugh pointed out that since many other states have these rules, and since a bipartisan commission in 2005 actually found some legitimate concerns for ballot collection, he said there are reasonable race-neutral justifications for both. And of course, even the Biden administration, surprising to many people, wrote a letter to the Supreme Court, said they didn't think these 2 Arizona laws violated the Voting Rights Act. But the big question is, how will the justices write this opinion? What sort of test will they create for figuring out when laws do constitute racial discrimination? That's the big concern. And tonight, Juju, Democrats, civil rights advocates are very nervous that this conservative majority on the court will make it harder to challenge election laws in the future.
Fascinating, Devin. But even as we wait for this decision, the House tomorrow is expected to pass a sweeping package of new voting reforms backed by Democrats. What might that accomplish? And what do you think the Republicans will say as backlash?
Yeah, I mean, even as all of those state restrictions are in the pipeline, they're on the horizon, Democrats tomorrow in the House will vote to pass this sweeping bill. It's 800 pages, Juju. It's called the For the People Act of 2021, a major Democratic priority. And it would set some national standards for voting. It would mandate automatic voter registration. It would expand voting by mail, mandate drop boxes in certain places. In fact, the bill would even mandate 2 weeks of early voting in every single state. As you alluded to, Republicans are opposed to this. They say it just favors Democrats politically. And that's why Juju faces very long odds in the Senate with that razor-thin majority. But Democrats tonight saying they're going to fight for it there. Juju?
Clearly the lines are drawn. Thanks to you, Devin Dwyer.
Interesting stuff going on in the chat. Tobin says, I can only register while renewing my license. So this is how different it is throughout the states here. While some people can register on their phone. How about that? Well, John Hudson, even with gerrymandering, they haven't won the popular vote for president since, I think, the second Bush, the younger administration. So Republicans can't win the popular vote here in the states. So we were talking about drug use in the chat too, and good job for everyone who's been able to fight it, and being able to get themselves clean. Well, here's the freaking thing, Blazing, and you're spot on with this. There shouldn't be an opt-in, as in you shouldn't have to go and register. You should just be put into the rolls automatically, right? Doesn't that make sense? In Denmark, we don't register at all. When we turn 18, we automatically get a vote at whatever election comes up. You see, now that just makes sense. It almost exists. It's almost as if the nation of Denmark wants people to vote. So yeah, almost. So the kids, brain bug. So the kids who wanted to change the board game rules because they keep losing grow up to be Republican. Yeah, that's about the size of it. That's about the size of it. Yeah, so that's, I mean, the good thing, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes through the Senate, this bill about trying to federalize more of the votes here in the United States of America, because right now every state can do whatever they want, more or less, regarding how they have people vote, in terms of times, in terms of registration, and there needs to be a federalization of this. Exhausting. It's been an exhausting show for me. Covered a lot of topics. What are we gonna do? We're gonna do a little laughter, a little something, and then we're gonna put a bow on this thing.
Life is complicated. These are trying times. There are many questions that need answering. Want to know what's going to help? Atheism. With atheism, you'll get rid of dogma, superstitions, and toxic thought patterns that are holding you back. You can drive while taking atheism, as well as use heavy machinery. In fact, drinking alcohol, fornicating, and Sunday mornings are far more enjoyable with atheism. However, there are side effects. Some evangelicals and fundamentalists will think you are possessed by the devil. But you don't have to worry, because you know the devil isn't real. Just like God. Wake up to your life. Believe in yourself. Believe in science. Atheism.
Liberty, equality, absurdity. That's the motto on my blog, Laughing in Disbelief on Pathos. Near and dear to my heart, that motto. Yeah, it is. It's one of my. There's part of me, because when you get to a certain point in your life, you're like, well, how much time, how much energy do I have? And that's like, well, I could just do, because I love doing this show, but there's a part of me that's like, you just do funny videos and just make funny videos all day, Andy. It's like, yeah, I could, but I really like doing this too. We're immune to witchcraft and hexes. Indeed, we are. Imaginary God. Imaginary God. Thank you, Dr. Osiris, for the plug. Oh, yeah, hit the like button, everyone. Please, how's that? And as well, coffee is always needed and loved and appreciated. Am I atheistic correctly? I feel like I'm not doing it poorly. That's what I feel, Tobin. That's what I feel. So today, I'm going to be doing the Jenga at 3 o'clock, relaxing, having a good time, hanging out with everyone who wants to come over, and we can talk about anything. Oh yeah, the Teespring. I have a new design out, and I have to put it in the store. I haven't done that yet, so I have to do that. So everyone, I hope you had a good time today. Hope you learned something. I had a good time sharing. And I always do. Like I said, 3 o'clock today, and we'll do some Jenga. And if nothing else, we're doing this whole crazy thing again, 9 a.m. tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Epic pose. I'm gonna put on my glasses. That's gonna be the epic pose right here. Ba 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 ba.